I'd like to say hello to all of my friends in the movement. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I wish you all the best with the conference. It's an essential part of an unfolding third industrial revolution around the world. It is clear that we are facing a global economic crisis. The second industrial revolution is on life support. Fossil fuel energies are becoming more expensive. The technologies based on those energies, like the internal combustion engine, centralized electricity, are antiquated. And now it's compounded by real-time climate change induced by industrial-based activity. We now have a species crisis. We have a biosphere crisis. It's essential that we create a new economic vision for the world that's compelling and a new economic game plan that's deliverable. We are on the cusp of a great third industrial revolution, a new convergence of communication and energy. The internet, this powerful communication revolution in the last 25 years. What's interesting about this internet revolution is the way it's organized. It's distributed, it's organized collaboratively, and it scales laterally. So today, 2.3 billion people can send their own video, audio, and text to each other with more lateral side-by-side power than all the centralized television networks of the 20th century. This internet communication revolution is just now beginning to merge with a new energy regime, distributed energies, which have to be organized collaboratively and scale laterally. It's a perfect fit. We are on the cusp of a new infrastructure paradigm in Europe and around the world, a five-pillar third industrial revolution. Pillar one, we are making a shift to renewable energies. Pillar two, how do we collect these distributed energies? You know, the sun's found everywhere. The wind blows around the world every day. We have geothermal heat everywhere under the crust of the earth. In the rural areas, we have agricultural and forestry waste that can be converted to energy. In the coastal regions, the ocean tides and waves can be converted to energy. These are distributed energies. They're found everywhere. How do we collect them? In our infrastructure. So pillar one, we're moving to distributed renewable energies. Pillar two, we're going to collect these energies on or around our infrastructure, our buildings, our homes, our offices, our factories, our farmhouses, our barns, our sheds. These are going to be the power plants of the 21st century. We have to imagine millions and millions of existing buildings, rural and urban, converted over the next 25 years to your own personal green micro power plant. So you can collect solar energy off the roof, wind off the sides of your buildings, geothermal heat underneath the buildings for energy, convert your garbage to energy, etc. Of course, the new buildings will be positive power. This pillar two is going to jumpstart a new economy, provide millions of jobs, thousands of new opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises, because we now have to see the analogy. Just like, 30 years ago we had a few centralized mainframe computers, and they were top-down. Then we invented the personal computer, and now today 2 billion people share their own information. Similarly, today we have a few power and utility companies in every continent, and we passively buy their energy. But already several million buildings in Europe are powering themselves, at least partially. And in 10 years from now, tens of millions of buildings around the world will provide their own green power locally. And in 25 years from now, every rural and urban building in the world is going to generate some of its own power right there on site. So just like we now have our own personal computer and cell phone to generate our own information and share it across the world, we're now beginning the process of transforming our buildings to power plants so we can generate our own power and share it across energy internet. So that gets me to pillar three. We're going to store this electricity because the sun isn't always shining. Sometimes the wind's blowing at night, you need the electricity during the day. If your water tables are down because of climate change drought, there's a problem with hydroelectricity. These are intermittent energies. We're going to put in storage technologies, especially hydrogen, to store these energies so we can use them consistently during the day, month, and year. That's pillar three. Pillar four, we're going to take off-the-shelf internet technology, IT technology, transform the power grid of every continent to an energy internet, a distributed smart grid. So when millions of rural and urban buildings are collecting that green energy on site, storing it in hydrogen, like we store it in digital, and then sharing whatever they don't need and selling it across an energy internet across entire continents. It's going to be just like we now create our own information on computers, store it in digital, and share it online. Pillar 5, we're going to plug in this new infrastructure with electric vehicles and fuel cell vehicles, both to run our rural agricultural machinery and for our transport and logistics, so that we can get green electricity from our buildings, plug it in, or even sell our own electricity back to the grid. These 5 pillars together: shift to renewable distributed energies. Pillar 2, convert every single rural and urban building to your own personal power plant to collect green electricity on site. Pillar 3, store that green electricity in the form of hydrogen. Pillar 4, establish energy internets across the urban-rural landscape to share surplus electricity like we share information. And Pillar 5, plug it all into our transport vehicles and our machines that we use for production. These 5 pillars together make a seamless new infrastructure for a new paradigm. This is power to the people. This is economic democracy. And nowhere will the implications of this new movement be more important than when it comes to agriculture. You know, agriculture uses a lot of our energy. Pesticides and fertilizers are made out of fossil fuels. Our equipment to manage our farms, most of that equipment is powered by fossil fuels and petrol. The processing of our foods, the transportation of our foods, the packaging of our foods, all depends on petrochemicals. And they're becoming more expensive, and they're giving us climate change. So we need to begin to, in the agricultural area, wean ourselves off of fossil fuels in the entire process, from growing our foods to processing, packaging, and transporting to the markets. The slow foods is about producing locally. It's about organic agriculture. It's about moving off pesticides and fertilizers. It's about reducing the distance between the farmer and the end consumer, eliminating the middlemen so that we can work together and reduce the cost. We have been involved in geopolitical consciousness for several hundred years now during the fossil fuel age. Everybody fighting everybody else for the resources. But now that we can go to distributed renewable energies, everyone has that energy locally. We have enough energy, all of us, to provide for our own needs: the sun, the wind, the heat under the ground, our agricultural waste, our ocean tides and waves. So we need to make a shift from geopolitics to biosphere consciousness. The slow food movement is embedded in this idea that we live in an indivisible global community, the biosphere. The biosphere is the sheath from the stratosphere to the oceans, where all geochemical and living processes interact in very, very complex ways to maintain the stability of this little experiment called life on Earth. So as we come to realize that we all are part of an interrelated biosphere, it changes the way we organize life, and it starts really with agriculture. Let me point something out. The primary economy of the Earth is photosynthesis. That's the primary economy. Now, we human beings, we're the youngest species on Earth. We've only been here about 175,000 years, anatomically modern humans. We're the babies on this planet. We're the youngest species. We only make up 0.5% of the biomass, human beings. 7 billion people, but only 0.5% of the living biomass. But as I speak to you today, our species is now gobbling up 32%, a third, of all the photosynthetic production of the Earth. This is not sustainable. It is all about bringing us more in line with the photosynthesis of the planet, the primary economy, so we can learn to produce our food and consume our food in a way that's sustainable, so that we learn to live within the limits of the biosphere. We do not produce and consume faster than nature can recycle and replenish the waste. We live in tandem with the requisites of the biosphere. I'm guardedly hopeful, because all over the world there are young kids coming home from school and they're thinking biosphere consciousness. They're saying to their dad, "Why do you use so much water when you're shaving? You're wasting it." Or "Why is the television on when we're not using it?" Or "Why do we have 2 cars when we could do car sharing?" We have kids coming home now, 14-year-olds, and they're saying, "Where did my hamburger come from? Did it come from a Central American rainforest?" Did they have to destroy the tree canopy in that rainforest for the 4 inches of topsoil so they could graze my cow for my hamburger? And when they destroyed those trees to graze that cow for my hamburger, what happened to all the plant and animal species in that tree canopy? Did they go extinct? And if the trees were destroyed, there's no longer a sink to absorb CO2 from industrial-induced climate change, which means the temperature of the planet goes up. And when that happens, more droughts, more floods, and farmers around the world, therefore, cannot feed their families and make a living. The activity we human beings engage in has an ecological footprint that affects the well-being of some other human, some family, some fellow creature, or an ecosystem on this planet. So the kids are learning to connect the dots, to understand we are in one indivisible biosphere community, that we're all indebted and related to each other, and we all rely on balancing our production and consumption with nature's ability to recycle and replenish the waste. The heart of this movement to a third industrial revolution, so that we can learn again how to take the primary economy, photosynthesis, and create an agricultural frame of reference that is sustainable and just and fair and allows not only our species to flourish, but our fellow creatures to flourish as well on this planet in the future. So my congratulations to my friends at this conference. I wish you the best of luck on your endeavors. Can bring all of us into biosphere consciousness and a great shift to a post-carbon society. Thank you.